Hey, friends, it's Candy here, and welcome back to She Coaches Coaches. Now, you've probably heard of the book Think and Grow Rich. It's a legend, right? But did you know it only gives you half of the secret to success? I have a guest today, John Mitchell, and he is here to reveal the entire thing. And he's got a 12-minute daily practice that helped him multiply his income by 25 times. He now teaches all of this at one of the top 5 business schools in the US. So, in today's episode, here's what we're going to cover. First, the missing half of that Think and Grow Rich secret and how discovering it really changed John's life and his income forever. His 12-minute a day technique backed by neuroscience and AI to rewire your brain for success, and how coaches can finally follow through and build that business that makes money and has a positive impact and create that business of their dreams, and the 2 big mindset blocks that help us get stuck. So, I know you guys are going to want to hear it. Let's dive in. Hey, John, welcome to the show. I am so glad you're here.
Andy, it is my pleasure, and thank you for that great introduction. And I think that a lot of your audience is going to find what we're going to talk about interesting. But I'm telling you, the ones that are driven, they're going to find it life-changing, I think.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So let's talk about how you found this missing secret.
Okay. Well, when I was 50, I just wasn't as successful as I thought I should be. And I had started my career as a CPA, became an entrepreneur when I was 30. In my 30s and 40s, I was like in 7 different businesses. But when I got to be 50, I just wasn't as successful as I thought I should be. And Candy, I had 2 goals in my life: to make enough money so I didn't have to work, and to find the woman of my dreams. Well, on the money, when I hit 50, and I know this sounds materialistic, but I realized I had to start netting $1 million a year if I was going to have the exceptional life I always dreamed of. And then on the girl, I at 50, I'd never been married. Although I got to say I did a lot of interviewing, but just couldn't find the right one. And so there I am at 50, unhappy with where I am in life. And so about 3 months after I turned 50, a pearl of wisdom comes into my head. Find the top book in the world on success and apply that book literally word for word to my life. And so I do the research and I discover that there's one book that has been read by 150 million people. It's the top book in the world on success by a factor of 10. And as you well know, that book is Think and Grow Rich. And so, Candy, I was like, wow, this is so perfect, it hurts. I had no idea there was one book above all the others. And so I buy the book and read the book. And then I discovered the problem. The book says there's a secret for success, but the author only gives us half of the secret. It's on the reader to figure out the other half. Well, I'm bummed out and I mope around for like 3 weeks. And just one day, Candy, I just get up and I'm like, John, come on, just man up, figure out the damn secret. And so I immersed myself in the book and probably read it 20 times over a 2 or 3 month period of time. And I figure out the full secret and a 12-minute a day technique to apply it. And I start applying it to a new business I was starting in the reverse mortgage field. And suddenly my income starts doubling and doubling and doubling to where 4 years later, I was blessed to be making 25 times what I'd made the prior 20 years, making 200, 300 grand a year. Now I'd 25x that. And what was particularly cool though, Candy, was I could see why it was happening. I was just playing the game of life at a higher level. I could do things I could never do before. And I had this level of control over my life beyond what I'd ever experienced before. And I just became fascinated by the fact that you could take 2 key scientific principles and apply them to your life and so materially impact your success. And so about 10 years ago, I sold my company and thought, okay, I'm going to share this with the world. And a couple of months after I sold my company, I meet the former chancellor and president here at the University of Texas, and I tell him my story, and he says, "Hey, you got to teach this at the University of Texas, and why don't we teach it together?" And then that led to him introducing me to the athletic director. And he says, "Hey, I want to learn this 12-minute a day technique." And that led to me becoming the mental coach for the 18 head coaches here in the athletic department. And so now I teach my methodology largely to the 550 athletes here at the University of Texas, but also to entrepreneurs, and I license my methodology to coaches.
So many things in this story, and I've been mentally sort of keeping track of all the different pieces that I am really curious about. The first was right at the beginning, you said, this may sound a bit materialistic, but I just, I want to sort of call that out because, and this is for the listeners as well as for you and for me, is that we don't have to make excuses for wanting a more abundant life. Most of us, most of the good people in the world, when we receive more in the way of money, we do more good, right? So even though it might seem materialistic, in fact, what it is it's opportunity to have a bigger, brighter, more impactful life and to do more good with all of that money and the blessings that come along with it. So nothing materialistic about it. It's about doing the good work in the world. What do you think about that?
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. And I'll tell you, when I first crossed over to netting $1 million a year, I was so humbled by that and felt so blessed that I started a foundation for single moms. Exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah,
So that just I don't know, just when you said that it really hit me that um this why we think we have to qualify the desire to make more, to be more, to have more, right? And
right.
so such an important thing. And as you were describing all the people that you impact through the work that you do at the university and of course worldwide, I just think of that, that ripple effect that happens. Like you share this missing secret with one person, two people, three people, 100 people, 500 people. And it's really an opportunity to like totally transform the world, you know?
Right, right. Well, and think about this. I think the lesson from my story is the immense power of understanding how you create success in your life. And in that regard, like when I meet somebody, I'll ask them, so how do you create success in your life? And maybe let's throw that out to your audience. How do you create success in your life? Well, I see that when I'm in person with somebody, they'll stumble around with that question and they'll come up with something. And then the more pertinent question is, well, how's that working for you? Well, not so good. And I see that the problem is that most people are just winging life. They don't really have a way of doing life, and the effect of that is they continually recreate their life. And when you look at that just a little deeper, there's two problems that we all have to overcome. The first one is that we are innately wired for survival, which causes 75% of our thoughts to be fear based. Then the second problem is that 95% of our daily actions are unconscious. And so the effect of both those problems is that when your eyes open up each morning, you're innately wired to be fear based and reactive, and you're going to be on autopilot most of the day. And what happens is those negative thoughts generate a negative feeling. Those negative feelings generate another negative thought, and you get in this continual negative loop. and you have nothing pulling you forward to your desired life. And so the solution to that is you take your life and create immense clarity and feed the succinct articulation of your desired life to yourself. Exactly the person you want to be, exactly what you want to accomplish, and precisely how you're going to achieve your clearly defined goals. And when you do that, then the right actions happen automatically, and you have this powerful force pulling you forward to your desired life.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
It totally does. And it's that, the word that really jumps out to me is clarity, right? I know
Yeah.
that when I work with my clients, a lot of times, no matter where they are in their life, exactly where they're at in their business, we get to this conversation fairly early in our relationship. And I say, like, what do you want? John, I don't know if you ever experienced that as well when somebody just said, so what exactly is it that you want? And to overcome that, to come to this place of clarity that you described, it's a powerful experience to actually claim that. What
You
do you think?
know, oh, I completely agree. And Candy, when I talk to people and explain this to them, and I go, well, the central concept of Think and Grow Rich is to create the succinct articulation of your desired life and feed it to yourself every day. Then they go, huh, that's pretty interesting. That sounds good. And then when they dig a little deeper, and I go, well, you got to define here's exactly the person I want to be, exactly what I want to accomplish, and precisely how I'm going to achieve my goals. Then they're like, whoa, wait a minute. Um, I don't know what that necessarily means, just to the point you made. And I'm like, no problem. I've got a template that creates all that clarity for you and an AI algorithm where you answer 50 questions, you press a button, and 10 seconds later, it customizes the template to your life.
Exactly. And I've got to tell the listeners that this template is really amazing. It's really fun. So the synchronicity here is that back at the end of March, John has a book, he has a podcast. We'll share that with you later. But I happened on his podcast and his book. So here I go and I do this template and I'm doing the 12 minutes a day that John's going to tell you more about. And a couple of weeks later, don't I get this email that this fellow John Mitchell would like to be on my show? And I'm like, perfect. It couldn't be better timing. I have just started on his process. So, this synchronicity, there is no accident in the world. And so, John, you're here talking to us because this is the right time for all the coaches who listen to this to hear your message. So tell them a little bit more about the 12-minute a day process and what's it like to do it.
Okay, well let's get into the secret and that process. And so I think the easiest way to do this is to share something that's very personal to me and let me be vulnerable. And so when I turned 50, there was a little more going on in my life than just feeling that scarcity of time. Candy, my mom was dying of pancreatic cancer. And she was probably in the hospital in Dallas for like 8 weeks. And like every day after work, I'd go and I'd spend a couple hours with her and I'd hold her hand and I'd love on her. And and Candy, it was everything I could do to keep from breaking down in front of her. And so again, I'd spend a couple hours with her and then I'd go in the cold, dark hospital parking lot and just cry my eyes out. And I'm sobbing for like 45 minutes every single night. And this is going on for like 8 weeks. And obviously, I'm feeling the impending loss of my mom. But Candy, I had never experienced that level of gut wrenching crying every night for 45 minutes. I mean, it was a level of emotion that I'd never experienced, and it was gut wrenching. And but what I later realized was it was what was really going on was that I felt like I was letting my mom down with my life because my mom and dad gave me everything. They sent me to Jesuit high school in Dallas when they really didn't have the money, and they sent me to the University of Texas. I didn't have to pay for anything. And so as I'm dealing with my mom leaving this world, I feel like I'm letting her down because she invested in me. She believed in me, but all I had was the average life. And I hated the average life
Mm.
because I just knew I was capable of so much more. And this nightly feeling was gut wrenching. The pain I was feeling, and meanwhile, during this time, I'm reading Think and Grow Rich, and I ultimately realized that the pain I was feeling was like rocket fuel and causing me to go deeper into Think and Grow Rich than anybody on the planet ever had to figure out the secret. And so, does that make sense?
It totally does. And I so appreciate you sharing the pain of losing your mom and just the experience. I've lost my one of my parents as well, and life happens and we all experience grief. And so I really feel for you. And I also think of the sort of the legacy that your mom left in you to have such a deep, loving relationship with her and to use that grieving as a spark to try to find how to be more of the person that you were meant to be and that you were capable of being. Like, what a final gift to,
Right.
I just think about that. It gives me chills. Yeah.
Right, right. Well, and I'll tell you, let me share with your audience the full secret and how I discovered it. It was around this time, and so every night I'm going to see my mom and cry my eyes out. And on one night in particular, I it was just this one pivotal night that where my life was changed forever. And so I go and I see my mom and I cry my eyes out in the car. But this night was different because it was snowing in Dallas, and it doesn't really snow that often in Dallas. And so as I start driving home, I see those big snowflakes hitting the windshield, and I just felt different. And so I get home and I plop myself in my nice, comfy chair and pick up Think and Grow Rich. And again, this is like the 20th time I've read it. But this particular night, I read that your daily actions determine your success in each area of your life. The cumulative effect of your daily actions will determine your success in your career, in your marriage, in your health. And I'm like, okay, I never thought about it so simply, but I buy that. And then I read essentially that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. I'm like, huh, that's interesting. Well, by now, Candy, I'm ready to go to bed. I'm tired, and so I brush my teeth and wash my face and put my little head on the pillow. And as I'm laying there, I can't stop thinking about 95% of my daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. And I'm just, I can't get that out of my head. And then it hits me. I don't control my daily actions, yet those daily actions are the very thing that's determined my success. And that hit me like a bolt of lightning. And so I sit up in bed and I stare out the window to my backyard and I see the glistening snowflakes falling and feels like a surreal moment. And then I think, well, what controls my daily actions then? Well, if 95% of them are unconscious, it's my subconscious mind, my autopilot. And the subconscious mind is only influenced by repetition. And all this time, I realized I've been controlling only my intentions, not my actions. All I've been controlling was my intentions. And I realized then that, hey, I wasn't underperforming because I lacked intelligence or drive. I was failing because of a false belief I'd had about success for like 50 years. And that false belief was that I controlled my daily actions. And now I finally had my eyes opened to the truth. My autopilot controlled my daily actions, and it was wired to be fear based and reactive. And so that night, I made the conscious decision to, by God, I was taking control of my autopilot and I was reprogramming it for success. And really, that epiphany changed my life. And then as that's coming over me, then the full secret of Think and Grow Rich comes to me. And here it is. What you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. Now, Candy, let me say that again. What you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And what that means is you define the clarity we were talking about a minute ago. You define exactly the person I want to be, exactly what I want to accomplish, and precisely how I'm going to achieve my clearly defined goals. And then you put that clarity on a template I created. And the template really has two purposes. One is to make the clarity concise enough so it only takes 12 minutes a day. But equally important, the second purpose is it allows you to apply all the science of the human mind that is talked about in Think and Grow Rich. And then reading it every morning gives the subconscious mind the repetition required to rewire your autopilot. And once you do that, then three things essentially happen. The first thing is you feel this immense sense of control over your life. Well, of course you would. You're feeling the succinct articulation of your desired life to yourself each day. Of course you'd feel control. And then the second thing you feel is confidence, which is a direct result of the control you feel. And then the third thing you experience is then the right actions start happening automatically because after about 21 days, the science kicks in and the magic happens. And then you just begin playing the game of life at just a higher level. And like I said, you can feel it.
Mm, yeah. And just as you're describing all of that, I'm just listening as if I'm listening for the first time. And there's something that you've said a few times, John, and I just want to highlight it and just want to sort of talk about it a little bit. And here's the thing is that the way that your life had become at that point, you were realizing you wanted to be more successful and that you had a good life, but it wasn't a great life
Right.
and there was more available to you. But not many people would read Think and Grow Rich at least 20 times. Like, I've got a copy of the book. If you guys are watching the YouTube video, you're going to see me holding it up. I've had this book probably since I was 20 years old. I think I've only read it once. But John had something happen that was so deeply meaningful, his why, his core why to find a new way. And he was led to reading this book at least 20 times. Like, could you talk about that a little bit? Like, the commitment
Right.
to do that is really incredible.
Well, I think, thank you for asking that because it's a great question. And I'll tell you something that was profound that happened in my life about 5 years ago. I decided if I'm going to spend the rest of my life sharing this with the world, I'm going to show what I created to the top expert in the world on success, whoever he or she might be. And so I decided that Darren Hardy is that person. You know who Darren
Yeah,
Hardy is.
yeah. Oh, of course, yeah.
Brilliant guy. So I write a big check, and Ginger and I fly out to California. We spend 3 days with him, and the moment comes that I sit down with him and I hand him the template, and he's looking at it, and he goes, "Wow, this is really good." But he says, "John, people aren't going to spend 12 minutes a day on this." And I'm like, "Whoa, how the hell can that be?" I mean, it 25x my income. Time magazine did a cover story on the science behind it, and we're applying the central concept of the top book of the world on success to people's lives. I mean, what do you mean they're not going to spend 12 minutes a day on that? And so he sort of kicks back and smiles. And he says, "John, the dirty little secret in the success business is that for most people, more success is merely a preference, merely a preference." And he says, that is 98% of people. He says, what you have is only for the 2% where more success is a necessity, where they are driven to be successful. And when he told me that, Candy, for the prior 5 years, I was like, well, wait a minute. Everybody wants to be more successful. So what I got is for everybody. Well, I was completely wrong. And from that point on, everything Darren said was so true. And finally, I mean, quickly, I'm like, okay, this is only for the driven 2%. I don't care about the other 98%. I hope they have a good life, but what I've got is not for them. So, no sense in even worrying about them. There's a lot of 2%ers though. And so that was profound because I would go, it's just like I said when we started. I said some of the people, the 98% will typically find what we're talking about interesting, but the 2% will find it life changing.
Right.
You're
Right.
in the 2%.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And I think most of the people that listen to this show are in the 2%. There is this wishing you had a better life, and then there's this deciding, right? Like, I will do the things that I need to do to create something amazing, something
Right,
spectacular, right?
right,
And I, I know that like when you look at there's 8 billion people in the world, 2% of 8 billion is a massive number of people for
right,
sure.
right,
Right.
right,
But the other piece is that some of those 98% may eventually become the 2%ers. Who knows? Like it's all sometimes it's in the timing of our life. Like you said, it was around when you were 50 years old that you started to realize that there was something else, right? Not that you didn't work hard, not that you didn't desire it before, but desire is one big step. And then deciding, I will do this. That's why every morning I wake up, I read my template, before I do anything else, before my morning meditation, before I do any of the other things that I do in my morning time. And I can tell you that I noticed a change. I noticed a change within the first week that something had shifted. And I don't know if, a lot of people say this to you, but what I noticed is that there's a line in the template that says that I'm not just a talker, I take action, right?
yeah,
And I was like, all of a sudden I realized that I wasn't thinking about doing the thing as much as I was just like, oh, I'm just going to do that thing. And off I went and I would do it. Those small things seem like seem like little tiny steps, but then when you add them up, it's a huge, massive change, right?
right, right. Well, and all this is based on science, but let's throw the science out the window for a minute. If you're
Sure.
feeding every day the right actions to take, and foundationally this is based on doing what you say you're going to do, you're going to take the damn actions.
Hmm.
It's right there. I mean, how can you not take the actions?
Yeah, exactly. There's something that I'm curious about. So you work with these top athletes, you work with the coaches of these athletes, and then you work with I'm assuming it's the business students as well, right?
Right.
What's that experience like working with particularly I'm curious about the youth. Like what's that experience like when you start to bring these concepts forward for them?
That's a great question. And I think in some ways I'm still processing that. to be honest with you. I see that candidly, this methodology typically is for people 40 years and older because you got to have enough failure in your life to realize that the normal way of doing life doesn't work if you want the exceptional life. Would you agree with that?
Definitely. And I think that that's one of the reasons, like for me, I became a coach well into my adulthood of 50-ish.
Right,
And before I made that change, and before that, I think I had a pretty common life. You know, you put your next foot forward on whatever ladder that you've decided to climb on, and you just keep going. And every opportunity that comes your way, you just sort of take it. And for me, I kept taking all these great opportunities. And then I realized that a lot of them weren't the ones for me. But it's only in that disappointment, you know, realizing that I'd made choices that weren't the right choices for me, that primed me to want to make these other choices, such as the ones that you're describing.
right, right. Well, and it's interesting when you have a class of 20-year-olds.
Mm,
Now, like I said, this is for the 2% that are driven. But when you're dealing with 20-year-olds, they haven't sorted out completely yet. They've sorted out, but not like they have when they're adults. And and I would say that when I teach them this methodology, 80% of them are fully in. They're doing it. They're totally into it. Now, all of them have to learn it because I'm grading them, you know, and if you don't get it and if you don't convince me you got it, you'll flunk. And I've flunked people, which is not always, the athletic department is not always happy with me about that. But that's how it is. And like you'll find this interesting because they're a microcosm of people. Every one of my students has a feeling of not enough, not good enough. And I told them, I said, sure, you feel that way. If you're wired for survival, you're naturally fear based and you're naturally going to feel like you're not enough. And so many of them told me, like, oh, wow. First of all, I didn't know that everybody felt this way. And secondly, I didn't know why I felt this way. And so, you know, it's really uh, interesting to watch that. But that's how most people are. They're living this life with this negative inner voice, which is a horrible way to live. I mean, I lived that way until I was 50, and then I completely got rid of it, and I'm like, whoa, this is a way better way to live.
for sure. And, you know, I just think that it's very eye opening that young adults have this not enoughness feeling, especially when, you know, you or I might look at them and go, these kids are like, of course, at 20, I'm calling them a kid. Like, these kids are incredible. There's so much potential. They have all of these skills and passions and talents. Like, they could do anything. And so, just to be, you know, I just want to make a statement that just to be connected with you and to experience spending time with you is a real gift for them. Maybe they can move past that place a little bit earlier than some of us that waited until we were 40 or 50 or who knows how long. And I just hope that that's a chance for them to experience more of their life in that place of inspiration.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, one of the things that was interesting. Do you know who Arch Manning is?
No, I don't.
Arch Manning is the quarterback here at the University of Texas and is favored to win the uh, Heisman Trophy next
Okay.
year. And he
Wow.
was in my class, and they're projecting him to be the number one draft pick in the NFL draft next year. And it was cool to get to know him. And at 19, in 2 years, he's going to be worth $200 million. But even him, and as like everybody else, they're having this feeling of not enough and this negative inner voice. And they all felt it was comforting to know why it's happening. And so that's what I would say to your audience is that's natural because you're wired for survival. And I think that one of the things that is important to convey to your audience is the core science here. Let me
Mm.
just explain how the human mind works, because this is foundational to this. So the conscious mind sets your intentions and is influenced by logic. Subconscious mind is controlling your everyday actions, or 95% of them, and it's only influenced by repetition. And as an example, say you want to lose weight. Well, the conscious mind sets the intention to lose weight based on the logic of the health benefits. But the reason people fail to lose weight is not from lack of intention. It's from lack of influencing the part of their brain that controls their daily actions, their subconscious mind. And the daily actions I'm talking about is their eating, their exercising. And so the takeaway from that is that the subconscious mind is so easy to manipulate because it's controlling your daily actions and it only responds to repetition and it doesn't have logic to go, well, wait a minute, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. It's just the obedient servant of the conscious mind. So when you feed every day, here's the right actions I want myself to take, it just feeds it back up to you. And after 21 days, it happens automatically without thinking. Now, in the first, and I'm sure you experienced this, in the first 21 days, it to some degree, it's a large degree, it's rejecting the program because you've never tried to influence your subconscious mind and it thinks it's going to go away. But there's a point, if you do it consistently every day, finally the subconscious mind goes, I give up. It's just easier to make the right actions happen automatically.
Yes. And I noticed that as well, that the subconscious mind, that standard programming, the habit thoughts that I have, it's got its little dance that it likes to do. After about the
Right.
first week reading the template. So, the process that John has created with this AI programming is you get a two-page document to read that is customized exactly to the life that you want to create. And my little brain, after about the first week, is like, oh, I'm kind of tired this morning. I don't really have time to do this. Oh,
Mhm.
can't we just skip that part? Can't we just do it later? And so just noticing these times that it wants to play a little game, like if you're just a little too busy, if you're just a little too
Mhm.
tired, then your subconscious mind will continue to do what it's always done in the past. It doesn't really want to change because my thoughts are that the subconscious mind does it from a place of caring and kindness. It thinks keeping that status quo is keeping you safe and
Exactly.
it's keeping you comfortable and it doesn't want you to take risks. So it's going to come up with these little ideas about how to do it.
Andy, that's exactly right. I mean, the three effects of being wired for survival is that you are profoundly resistant to change. 75% of your thoughts are fear based, and you're reactive rather than proactive on your agenda. And so it's natural when you start doing this, the being wired for survival is going to go, let's not do it today. It's be easier not to do it. But this is the power of once you do it every single day and you're doing it first thing every day. And there is a point where truly your subconscious mind goes, okay, I just accept this.
Yeah.
And and again, this is built on foundationally doing what you say you're going to do, which is a powerful concept to apply to one's life.
I love it. John, I've loved this conversation and we've covered a lot of ground, but you have so much in your book, so much in your podcast that those two percenters who are listening to this show, and I know that you guys are out there listening, how can they find out more about you? How can they come closer into your world and start to use this technology that you've created?
Well, I've got a special gift for your show. If your audience will go to themissingsecret.org, I have a 9-minute video that explains the full secret of Think and Grow Rich and the science behind it. And again, www.themissingsecret.org. And and I think you'll see it's and it's free, of course. And then once you understand it at a deeper level, then you can apply it to your life and through the book. And one thing I would say that is interesting that I think because I license my methodology to coaches, and here's the thing I want them to realize. Today, there is a big gap in the success and human achievement field in that there's a lot of brilliant people in the space and they're espousing this strategy or that strategy. Well, as good as those strategies are, all they're doing is infecting your intentions. And so, what you need is something that takes great strategies and makes them show up automatically without thinking in your thoughts and actions. And I don't see anybody in the success field teaching an actual way of doing life that accomplishes that. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this. And I just look at this as this is for smart people. This is for working smarter, not harder. And it truly gives you an edge in life. And my experience in life has been that if you do life like everybody else, you get the average life. But this gives you an edge in life to have the exceptional life.
Yeah, well said. I love it. Okay. All right, everyone. This has been an amazing conversation. I feel so thankful to have spoken to John and also to really get the sort of that underlying detail behind the work that he's doing. I would highly recommend going and listening, watching that video that he has shared with us, and take the next step. More than anything, for you, the listener, I want you to have the life that you really, really know you're meant to live. And it's one of the reasons that I was feeling so fortunate to have John on the episode. John, thank you so much for joining me today. I loved the conversation, and I'm really looking forward to all the more things that I can learn from you over the next few months.
Well, I sure appreciate it. And could I add one thing to what you just said?
Sure.
I think this will put it in perspective for your audience. A quick story. So, you have grandkids?
No, not yet.
Right, right. Well, I became a grandfather 3 years ago, and so the day after our grandbaby was born, Ginger and I go over to Hannah's house, and there's a lot of oohing and awing about the baby. And for some reason, they hand me the baby and walk away. And so I'm like, here I am. I'm holding this precious little girl and I'm holding her to my chest. I feel the warmth of her body. And I start to cry, Candy. I have tears flowing. Uh, and I realize that this little girl's going to live probably for 100 years, and the quality of her life is going to come down to the thoughts that are going on in her head on an ongoing basis. That's going to determine both her success and her enjoyment of life. And so I'm that at that moment, I'm like, by God, I'm going to make sure that I influence the thoughts going on in her head because her life is so precious. But the message really for your audience is your life is precious, just
Mhm.
like Candy said. And so tonight, when you put your head on the pillow, think about this. If the next 5 years look like the last 5 years, will you be happy with that? And if the answer is no, you now have a way to change it. And it takes just 12 minutes a day to create the life you desire.
Mm, well said, John. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that last story with us. Okay. All right, you guys, that is the episode for today. I love you. I am here to support you. I would love to hear your thoughts. Send me an email, info@candymotzek.com. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear what you learn. I want to hear how you grow as what we've shared with you today. Thanks so much.